Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey at the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China. I've got a bunch of requests from many viewers asking me how does my stretching routine look like. So I'm going to show you some basic stretches I do every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, starting with a butterfly stretch, opening up the hips, bringing the knees down toward the floor, feet together. Sometimes I'll bend forward or stretch out the arms there, or put some extra weight on top of the knees. Next, a straddle sit. Now you can hold these stretches for as long as you want, as long as you need to. I'm kind of rushing through it a little bit to show you all the stretches. So what I'm doing here is alternating between flexing the feet and pointing the feet. You'll notice when I flex the feet, I elevate my heels off the floor ever so slightly, and then open up and push myself down deeper into the stretch. And flex the feet again and push myself down deeper into the stretch, trying to straighten out my back. My back is naturally really tight. In fact, generally speaking, naturally, I'm as flexible as a piece of wood. I'm not a naturally flexible person at all. So I've had to work really, really hard to get as flexible as I am. And I'm holding my hands together behind my back, stretching my arms out here in order to help straighten out my back and use my upper body as a weight to help bring myself lower. This next one, I'm stretching to the side. Now, if you cannot go as far as I do, that's fine. Go as far as you can, and every day go a tiny, tiny bit further. So I'm stretching to the right, and then to the left. Hold on. I'm looking at this from the other side. That's the left first. Sorry, guys. Confusing my left and my right. Anyway, it doesn't matter which side you start on, left side, right side. Just stretch both sides of the body. So hanging over. It's very important to try to relax as much as possible when you stretch, even though when you start, your body will be violently resisting you, saying, "No, stop it, this hurts, this is uncomfortable, I don't want to go that far." It's okay. It's okay. Just relax. Just breathe. And exhale. It is so, so important to exhale slowly when you stretch. Because when you exhale, that is when your body starts to let go of all of that tension holding you back. So this next one, I cross one foot, one leg over my other, and I pull my legs, my knees toward my chest, and you can either cross the leg partially or all the way over, showing you two different variations of this stretch. For the hips, the glutes, the hip flexors, you're going to feel it in different parts of your butt depending on where you are more tight. And that's very specific to you and your specific flexibility and range of motion. Now pulling one knee up to the chest and using my arm as a weight to bring it down, and folding it over the body, folding my arm in the opposite direction to get a spinal twist, a stretch in the lower back here. You might even feel your spine pop, and that's fine. That's fine. Just relax and let go and enjoy that stretch in the lower back. And remember, do it on both sides. Pull one knee up and open up your hip. And now fold it across the body. Let your arm fall in the opposite direction, pulling yourself apart in two separate directions, left side and right side, twisting the spine, unkinking the kinks in the lower back. Now, when you're doing static stretching like this, I will do this after I work out, after my training, when my muscles are already warm. Because as far as static stretching goes, and I'm just rolling back and forth on my back to even out the spine here. When the muscles are warm, they will stretch. If they are cold, they will tear into a downward dog position. I use a lot of basic yoga stretches. Why? Because they're good. This is an excellent stretch for your entire posterior chain, your back, your legs, the hamstrings. Going into that seal or cobra position, pushing up, posturing up, looking up, stretching out the lower back and the abdomen. And then sitting back into that child's pose position, stretching out the upper back. Now, feeding one arm under the other and looking in the opposite direction to stretch out the inside of the shoulders. Shoulders are often ignored when we think stretching. Most of us think do the splits and stretch out the legs and the hips, but don't forget your shoulders. Most people I find carry a lot of tension around in their hips and also in their shoulders. Now into a lunge. I'm going to show you a whole leg hip stretching series here. A lot of people say, I'm so inflexible. Should I take a kickboxing class? Yeah, you should. So stretching out the quadriceps here, grabbing the foot and leaning forward, opening up the hip, and pulling on that leg in order to stretch out the quadriceps, the front of the leg. Now I turn out my entire leg on the right side. Turn that out, if you can see what I'm doing in the mirror. And now I look behind me and get a twist, driving my hip down to the floor to stretch out the hips. Now I straighten both legs, hanging over, letting my body weight carry me down and help out with that stretch. Now I'll flex the lead foot to give an extra stretch to the back of the leg. And drop back down into the lunge. Lying that foot on the floor into the pigeon position. Sprawling my left leg back, and now leaning forward, going chest down to the floor. And now posturing up, looking up, trying to look up and behind me. I don't have that kind of flexibility in my upper back. Some people do. Some people can look all the way back and stick their head on their butt almost. I am not a contortionist. Again, I'm not a naturally flexible person. One more quadricep stretch right there. Back into the lunge, opening up into a side or Cossack stretch. My elbow in the side of the knee. Now what I'm doing is rotating the hip, turning it in and turning it out. Turning it all the way in onto the inside of the foot and turning my hip all the way out, so I'm practically sitting on my butt to the outside of the foot. And repeat that several times. And now flex and point the foot to get a little bit more range in the side stretch. Switching to the other side. And sitting into that side stretch, opening up the hips, flexing and pointing the foot to get a little bit more extension. And then rolling from the outside to the inside on the side stretch. Turn out all the way and turn in all the way. Turn the hip out all the way and turn the hip in all the way. And again, if you don't have this much flexibility, just modify. That is the most important thing as far as acquiring flexibility goes. Now I'm going to do the whole series on the opposite side, starting in a lunge. And again, if you can't go this deep in a lunge, just go as deep as you can. Just bending that leg up there to warm it up. Grab the toes and lean forward into the quadricep stretch. Lowering the hip down as low as you can. Pulling the leg up. Now I'll turn out my left foot and my left leg, reaching behind me, looking behind me. Driving my right hip lower. Now straightening out both legs, hanging over. Both legs are straight. Keep the knees locked in this position. Don't cheat yourself and bend them. Flexing the lead foot to give an extra stretch to the back of my left leg. Bringing it back down into the lunge. And down into the pigeon pose. Squaring up the hips. Lowering the torso. Using gravity to help stretch out that hip even deeper. Opening up the arms to the side, pressing up, posturing up, stretching out the lower back. Stretching out the hips in different ways. I'd recommend do stretching like this when not only when you are warm, but when the room is warm. Wear some extra layers of clothing as well, because again, the warmer you are, the easier it's going to be to get flexible. Now, we open up into a front split, and I'm alternating between flexing and pointing the toes to go a little bit further into that stretch. This is the day after leg day, so this is not a comfortable position when the legs are sore from squats. But it's important. Gotta stretch, gotta do it every day, even when you don't feel like it. Now opening up into a side stretch from the front split. Now posturing up, arching the back, getting my weight right over the hips. Now switching sides, front split on the right side. Now it helps to do this if you're wearing socks on a floor where your feet might otherwise catch, so that you can slide those legs out further, because sometimes if you're barefoot on a surface with a lot of grip to it, then you might not slide out as far into a front split or a side split as you should. So leaning forward, rotating into a side stretch from the front split. And posturing up, arching the back, getting my weight right over the center, driving my hips down a little bit lower. Now opening up into a side split, using my hands to support myself so I don't fall back. Now there's some space between my crotch and the floor here because I don't have enough range of motion to go all the way down, but maybe before I'm 50 I'll be able to. We'll see. Long-term goals. And opening up into a box split, driving my weight onto the inside edges of my feet. And then relax, shake out those legs a little bit, get some blood coursing in there. Rotating the legs, again after a whole split session. My hips feel like I've just been torn apart, so gotta wiggle them around a little bit. Rocking back and forth and back and forth. An awesome thing about static stretching that has been proven in 3 separate scientific studies over the last 4 years is that static stretching actually fosters the development of new stem cells in the joints and connective tissues. So if you want longevity, stretch. I'm 40 years old now. I do this every day, and yeah, it works. It works. Stretching every day makes you healthier. It really does. Not just more flexible, but healthier. So I'm dipping from one side to the other there, from this downward dog, to get a stretch in the spine and the back. I'm looking from the left side to the right side in this postured up cobra position. This time I'm up on the toes, looking up and down, stretching out the back and the neck and the spine in some different ways. Now sitting back into that child pose again for a nice counter stretch. Now going belly down, grabbing my feet, and pulling myself up, arching the back, stretching out the quads, stretching out the lower back. It's also a strengthening exercise. Now rolling from the left side to the right side, this is a nice outside shoulder stretch, while at the same time stretching and strengthening the core. Anytime you can stretch and strengthen at the same time, that's a bonus. But yeah, this is a fun one to do. Now here is a shoulder and back stretch. So I have my right arm in a squared position. I take my left leg and dip it as far over as I can till I feel a stretch on the shoulder of the bent arm. And I'll do that on both sides, of course. And again, just go as far as you can, and then go a little bit farther each time. Posturing up one more time. Back into that child pose position, stretching out the upper back. Now hanging over, grabbing the ankles, bending and straightening the knees to get a stretch in the back of the legs, and in my back as well, hugging the thighs for an exaggerated effect, and then rolling back up. Anyway, thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.